Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? This is my review of Jack Reacher number 8, The Enemy by Lee Child. Man, I'm already 8 books into this thing. I want to say that I only started reading them again in January. We're into June. Keeping up a decent pace. I'm not going to read all 28 this year. Part of that is because, I'm not sure exactly how they number all of these, but it seems like there's a fair amount of short stories and novellas and such. I don't think I'm going to hunt all of those down. I don't know if you've got to buy just the Kindle versions or anthologies or whatever. So I'm just going to stick with the main novels. At some point, he hands the reins off to his brother, from what I understand. I think that's what Brett Kane told me, and he's the Reacher expert in my life. And so they're kind of co-written between Lee Child and Andrew Child. So I'm kind of looking forward to whenever that happens, just to see what kind of changes there are in the writing style and in the focus. But this one, it's the third of the books thus far to be written in the first person. And I've got to say, I enjoy the first person books more. Although, as I've mentioned previously, some of the stories only work if you can step outside of Reacher and read it in the third person. So I understand why there's the oscillation. But the plot in this one, this is actually a Reacher prequel. There's no explanation or anything. It's not like it's like, oh, I remember this one case that I handled a long time ago. It's just, hey, it's New Year's Eve on 1989. The new year gets rung in. Everybody knows that the Cold War is about to end and that the Berlin Wall is going to come down soon. And what that means for those in the military is unit reductions. They've got to face the prospect of soon being unemployed, along with a significant number of their peers who will have similar skill sets and will thus dilute the job market. Reacher is a major at this point. He's a member of the Special Investigators. He's a military policeman. So he's doing what he's already kind of known for doing, but he hasn't done his last job yet, and he hasn't been discharged from the military yet. And on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, just a few minutes after midnight, he gets a call from his superior saying, like, hey, go check out this motel that's about an hour away from where you're stationed. A 2-star general has just been found dead. And we want to be the first on site before anything weird happens. We got to find out what's going on. Well, they don't exactly find out what's going on, but what they do find, Reacher and, it's mainly just Reacher at first. What they do find is not good. Initially, there's the impression that the general had a heart attack, but they can't find his briefcase, and this is a thread. Reacher grabs it, pulls at it, ends up finding out that there's more going on, as is always the case. I love how Child never wastes any time. He's able to establish on the fly, and the story just goes. There is a bit of a drawback to that model because he ends them almost as abruptly as he begins them, and the last couple especially have kind of just been like, all right, well, the case is done and the story's over. It's like, oh, whoa, okay, all right. Like it's just abrupt to the point of being a little bit jarring, especially when there are passages here and there through the book where it's like, okay, can we speed this up a little bit? What's going on? I've heard that his writing style is kind of a bit of a pantser. I don't know if he outlines so much, but he sits down and he writes. He doesn't really go back over what he read. Maybe he just has an idea and he's writing towards it. It reads like that, so I get the impression that he writes like that. It does hit the familiar Reacher story beats. There's a woman involved. They got to work together. She is attractive. They do the devil's tango. Then they do it again. Then he never sees her again. Those are kind of the tropes of it. You get he's an American James Bond. There's a different girl in every book. There was one thing that he was being a little bit coy about, and I say he in the sense of Child. There's a sergeant that works in Reacher's office. He never says her name. but she's a single mom, and he does emphasize that the dad's not in the picture. There's like a hint that maybe something could happen. Having seen season 2 of the show and knowing that it's based on book 12 in the series, I thought, oh, is this what's her face? I can't remember the character's name. Dixon. Is this her? But she didn't have a kid in the show, so I don't know. It felt like there was some sleight of hand, like something waiting to drop, with the fact that he just kept saying the sergeant, my assistant, my secretary, the sergeant, like, and he never said her name. So I wonder what that's all about. Maybe he's planting a seed for something that'll be revealed in another book. But aside from the unique nature of this story, trying to figure out what was going on with this 2-star general and how it tied to the looming threat of reduction in active duty military members, it was cool to see Reacher on the job in his element, because obviously up until now we've seen him on the job as far as just being a civilian investigator or a combatant in some sense, where he gets roped into these schemes and he's got to put his skills to the test. It was cool to see him being an MP while on duty as an MP. We also get a glimpse of the last few days of his mom's life. It's been mentioned and established before that he's the last of his family. Obviously, his brother dies in the first book, and his dad's been dead for a while, and his mom died just a few years after that. His mom was French, and they know that she's sick. Joe and Reacher both know that she's sick. They go and see her, and then she dies a few days later. They're there for the funeral. It was just very touching, very beautifully written. You get the impression that Child has been to Paris, has been to France, and he wants to highlight the beautiful parts of the city, even in the dead cold of winter. I've been in the Mediterranean in winter. There are parts of it that can be pretty shockingly cold. But he was able to focus on the other elements of that. So yeah, it hits those familiar beats and it shows you something new, and I'm liking the reliability of that. Content wasn't any more graphic or intense than the previous books. It takes a bit of a different angle because the female interest is black in this one, and there's a bit of, not necessarily like daggers or snipping or anything, but there's a bit of dialogue beforehand where she emphasizes how the deck is going to be stacked against her if she gets a dishonorable discharge from the military, being a 26-year-old black woman versus him being a 30-year-old white man. And it's not like it presented in a woe is me way that it would be now. It's just, here's the reality, here's what I'm going to be facing versus what you're going to be facing if this happens, so we got to be careful doing this mission. And one of the victims slash suspects that pops up in this case, because before it's all over, they end up dealing with multiple dead bodies, all of them being military service personnel of varying rank. One of them is a Delta Force operator that they later find out is gay, and they're like, okay, was this like a bigotry action? Did somebody find out that he was gay from his unit and kill him? And then they investigate the unit, and they're like, no, we all knew that he was gay. We all liked this guy. This was at a time when it was like technically against the law to be gay in the military. This was even before, 1990. That was before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which was a Bill Clinton thing, and he didn't get elected until 92. So yeah, there was a different set of rules at that time. So I think when this one was published, it was mid 2000s. So it was set 15 years before it was published, and now 34 years before the current day. So Child does a good job of just kind of capturing the time period, and I can only assume that the details about military life and structure and order as he presents them are accurate, me never having served in the military. If by chance you are a military veteran, especially of that particular time period, and you've read this book, let me know if you got any of the details right, glaringly wrong, if he was able to capture that, or if he's just writing a good yarn and satisfying the requirements of a good story within the world that he's established. But I continue to really enjoy these books, and it's nice to look forward to the others that I have to read. I won't spoil the end. I do recommend that you read it. I think overall I gave it 4 stars, which is what most of these are turning out to be. I think I've given 1 or 2 of them 3 stars, but that's what I like it. I like kind of getting into this series and knowing that there's plenty more to go. I'm just over the 25% mark as far as getting through what's there. Chronologically, thus far, this is the first Reacher novel, even though it's the one that was released 8th. Anyway, that's it for now. I am just about to pull up to the gym and lift heavy things until I can't anymore. Till next time, drive safe. See you out there.